What up, fam? Welcome back to Buzztober. We are on day 13, I believe, and 13 is one of my favorite numbers. So I am excited about today. I'm wearing a UCF hat today because that is my college team, and we're playing football today. So not me, the football players are playing football. I'm not playing football. You wouldn't want that, trust me. Unless you want to have like a fucking solid laugh at something. So, okay, last episode I talked about the creepiness that is some of these like national parks stories. So I did a little quick Google search and I did find, of course there is a Reddit thread for what is the scariest or strangest thing you've seen in a national park or national forest. So I haven't read any of these yet, but you know, there's one that they start with sorry for the novella. So I think we're gonna have a good story here. Let's go ahead and dive on in. I have a major headache right now, so I am not drinking alcohol yet. Give it time. That could be why I have said headache. Maybe I need the alcohol. Who actually knows, honestly? This is just water. Boring as fuck. I'm so sorry. It's like, I just can't, I don't think I could drink every day. I think it's too much. The first story under this thread, so, okay, I guess I'll give a little Okay, I'll give a little bit of background about why I picked this one. So I feel like for the last, I explained this a little bit in the last episode, but for a while there on my TikTok FYP, it was like all like these scary national park stories and all of this stuff. And it's fascinating because these are supposedly true. So just really interesting. So with these stories that I'm gonna read to you today, these are people's submissions that are supposedly true stories. So let's go ahead and get started with the first one here. This was written in by Emergent Sea. Oh, that's funny, but it's spelled sea like S-E-A, like the ocean thing. So they say, I was traveling solo around the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State and making various stops in the Olympic National Park. I decided to stop in Quinault. I've never heard of that. I must be super uncultured. I apologize if I am pronouncing that incorrectly. For the first time, and took a random road that dead-ended at a beautiful spot at the edge of the Quinault River. There was an ancient footbridge that led across the river, but it looked like it might collapse if I crossed it, so I decided not to. Oh, good for you for having a brain. I might need to borrow it sometime. It was off-season, and I was not in a tourist area. I was the only one there. It was so unusually hot outside that I decided that I needed to get in that water. I backed my car all the way to the edge of the dead-end road, faced it out in the direction I would need to leave, and started hiking through the thick bush, down an embankment to the edge of the water. There was no path. It was a pretty rugged area. It was mid-fall, and I didn't have a suit since I wasn't planning on swimming, so I just took off my clothes and got in the water in my bra and underwear. I had a nice swim, but I could not shake the feeling that I was being watched, even though I was in the middle of nowhere. After about 5 minutes, the creepy feeling was enough for me to head back, so I started to climb out, turned my back to the other side of the river, and walked towards my clothes and shoes that I had left behind. When I turned around, oh my God. These stories, man. Ooh, okay. When I turned around, there was a big, tall man standing in plain view just across from me on the other side of the river, but higher up on his embankment than I was on mine. He was wearing a poncho made of animal pelts, had long hair full of sticks and twigs, and looked like he had been living out in the wild for a very long time. We stood and stared at each other, me in frozen terror, for what felt like forever, when all of a sudden he frantically took off in the direction of the footbridge leading across the water. I grabbed my car key, tried to grab my clothes and shoes, but they got tangled up in some blackberry vines, so I left everything and went running for my life, through the thick brush and blackberries, barefoot in my underwear, trying to make it to my car before he made it across the river. There was no doubt in my mind that he was trying to harm me. When I made it out of the blackberries, I could see he was crossing the bridge toward me rapidly. I got to my car and flung my door open just as he arrived. I locked the doors while he pounded on the hood of my car, just screaming and grunting non-verbally. The moment he went for my driver's side door, I hit the gas and took off as fast as I could. I looked back and he was chasing after me. He must have run after my car for at least a mile until he faded from view. I was bleeding everywhere from running nearly naked through the blackberries. I was wet, unclothed, shaking and crying. Had I hesitated for literally 10 seconds longer, I don't think I would have made it out alive. Even typing this story out all these years later, I am starting to shake. I feel like I was being hunted. That is the only way I can describe it. I will never ever go back to that area. Since that moment, I always bring a hiking buddy with me when I venture out into the forest. That day is going to haunt me for life. I've had many years of therapy, and that experience is still as vivid as the day it happened. Okay, one of the first things I was gonna say is like, this is just kind of, I don't want to say this is common sense because I think this person sounds like intelligent and stuff. I'm not insulting them by any means, but if you're gonna, I'm just saying this as like food for thought, even if you're a really good, like well-experienced, like adventure person, definitely don't go into national parks alone. It is just dangerous, especially if you're a woman. I'm sorry, I hate to put it that way and I hate to be that person, but if you're a man, if you can help it, don't be alone. Woman, definitely don't be alone. There's a lot of creepy shit out there like this. This is a prime example of what I was talking about in the last episode of like, what the fuck was that? That was just like a feral person just like out in the forest. Oh my God. Okay, I've got another one. Oh God, this person's name is I Am a Cannibal. Yuck, like that's fucked up. I fucking hate that. My friend and I would go camping pretty often near a pond in a big clearing that pretty much no one knew about. We had never seen signs of anything else being there, and it's hard to get to. It's on the edge of a national forest in California. One morning, when we pulled the truck up to the area we parked before the hike in, we saw 2 mountain lions having sex. That alone was enough for us to just call the trip a loss and turn back. But we decided to stick around for a bit to watch the lions. Okay, this person is fucking stupid. I'm sorry. I don't even care if you're listening to this. Like, that is fucking stupid. I love lions. I've always said lions are a good omen. I'm a Leo, first off. Don't ask me anything about your signs. I don't know shit about your signs. I only know shit about mine. My high school mascot, even though I hated high school, was the lions. My sorority in college, our mascot was the lions. Every time there's like a lion present somewhere, I feel like it's good juju. I just feel good about it, but not like a real lion. Like a lion statue or a lion figurine. A stuffed animal, perhaps, but definitely not a real lion. If I saw a real lion, I don't even know what I would do. So stupid that they stayed. Fucking stupid. They finished up their business pretty quickly and kind of just hung around the area. So it was cool to see them. After about 10 minutes, they perk up and are on alert. We have the windows up, obviously, so we can't hear anything. They get scared and run off from the direction they ran away from 3 deer running through with a big ass bear chasing them. See, okay, so that's not even like a person that's scary. Like thought the direction might go, or thought these stories were gonna be all about. But there's big ass animals that can kill you out in these national forests. So it's terrifying. Like if you're gonna do it, you gotta just be, first off, super self-aware. Don't travel alone. It sounds like this person didn't, which is good. But if I saw lions, I don't know what the fuck I would do. Ooh, okay, let's see what this one says. So this next one is written in by Benson Jensen. A buddy and I were on a camping trip in the Poudre Canyon right outside of Fort Collins, Colorado. It was late in the season, so all of the campgrounds were closed. We found a random spot off of a random road. Both of us have a ton of experience and had camped all over Colorado and Utah, but something about this particular spot was just off. Almost immediately, we found a blanket wrapped around a deceased skeletal animal. We assumed it was just a pet that someone had thrown out, but it set the mood. We went hiking, climbed up a few hills, and came across an abandoned tent wrapped up in a tree. I was certain we were going to find a body in it, but it was just filled with notebooks and a sleeping bag. We start hiking down the hill and end up walking down the side, very steep. As we are traversing down, we are hit with the smell of death. How do you know what that smells like? I don't want to know. I don't need to know. I don't like it. Nestled into a tree on the side of a very steep hill is a small towel with something clearly inside of it. We leave it be and hike down. This is probably 200 to 300 feet up the side of a steep hill with a towel in a tree facing the top of the hill. Clearly intentionally put there. We down some bourbon. Yeah, that's fair. I would do the same thing. Build up some courage and hike back up. Grab a stick, open up the towel. Inside, a very recently deceased owl. Oh, that's sad. Somehow, some way, someone had killed this owl, wrapped it in a towel, hiked up a steep hill off a random mountain road, and stuck it beside a tree. We started a fire, slammed the bourbon, and got the fuck out of there in the morning. Interesting. I mean, that's like obviously gross. I don't know, were they like, somebody commented creepy, like some Blair Witch Project stuff. Okay, so it's like, seems like ritualistic, if you will. That does kind of make sense because like, if the other thing that was wrapped up was like remains of like a skeletal animal or whatever, Could be some weird, witchy, ritualistic shit, which is terrifying. Like, it's like the same thing where you like shouldn't fuck with Ouija boards. Like, I would not fuck with this stuff at all. Absolutely not. Nope. This one is written in by We Deserve Better. Oh, yeah. I mean, we do. Absolutely. You're onto something there. When I was a kid, maybe 10, my parents took our family of 4 to Mark Twain National Forest. We did not go to a campground. For whatever reason, we arrived around dusk, and we had to hurry to set up camp. Soon after, we discovered we had forgotten a lantern, and it became very dark. My stepfather was an alcoholic and a mean drunk to boot, so there was a lot of yelling instead of lighting a campfire, and we went to bed. As we all lie there trying to sleep, we began to hear dead leaves rustle in the distance, as if someone were walking through the forest. Time was passing slowly as we listened to the sound getting closer. My sister, 12, my mother, my drunk stepdad, and myself were petrified. Hoping that since we have no lights, and because the person walking through the forest didn't have a flashlight, we may avoid notice. A few moments later, as the sound of shuffled walking was within a few yards, the stranger stepped on a twig and it snapped. My father belted out a blood-curdling scream, and my mother shrieked, "Let's get out of here." All 4 of us bolted out of the tent towards the car, my brave parents in the lead. After a few terrifying moments, we reached our Honda Civic hatchback, and we took off for home. And we never went back for our things. I hate camping to this day. I'm 43, and I still dream about this. See, there is something wrong with, I'm not into it. You're not going to convince me to camp. I don't care what you say. Listen, again, like Sprinter van, sure. Like, I feel like you have protection in that, and you can drive off if God forbid something were to happen. If you're in a tent, you're just so vulnerable. You don't have real protection when you're in a tent from something. And I'm like not privy enough to like the woods and shit to know what a bear and whatever other animals would be of concern depending on what area I was in. So I'm just like not willing to risk it. This next one was written in by Proper Niece. Okay. First time ever camping. It was for a field trip in 7th grade. God, I was miserable and I hated it, and I didn't want to be away from home. It was about 5 hours away. I couldn't sleep, so I got up in the middle of the night and walked outside. I sat with a little booklight to read in front of the cabin. I was so obsessed with Christopher Pike at that age. Holy shit. I wonder if that detail's important, who knows? But thanks for the info. I was super unnerved, but I couldn't stand going back into the cabin and laying on this stupid, awful wooden manger-type cot, so I stayed right there by the door. I had this weird feeling like I was being watched, but felt safe enough because it was camp. But every now and then, I just couldn't stop glancing up. It felt weird. I can't explain it, like hair on the back of your neck standing up weird. I guess I happened to move my book just right, because the light caught on a pair of glowing eyes like an animal, right in front of me. As a kid, I felt like they were right in front of me, but must have been down the steps and a few yards back, because I dropped the book and the light fell off to the side. I could just barely see that it was a goddamn mountain lion. I couldn't even see the full thing at first, just a paw, but then I followed it up. It saw me and I saw it, and I could not move. In my mind, I knew 2 things. If I didn't move, someone was going to find a blood trail and then my half-eaten corpse. And 2, if I got attacked by a mountain lion because I was doing something I wasn't supposed to do, my dad would be so mad. I have no idea how long I fumbled. It couldn't have been more than a few seconds, but it felt like 10 years. I reached up behind me until I found the door handle and twisted until I fell into the cabin backward, closed the door, and got back into my stupid bed and laid there until sunrise. One girl woke up and I just told her the wind must have made the door bang. In the morning, our teacher came to wake us up, and I got in trouble for leaving my library book outside. I didn't want to get in even more trouble, so I didn't tell anyone what happened. Wow. The fact that this person survived is just rocking my world right now. Like I don't even know what to say about that. Okay, we've got time for one more because it's a short one. I hope this one's good. This one was written in by Fragrant Dingo 21. Went camping with a friend, both about 9 or 10, and we decided to explore the woods at night. We were about 5 minutes away from the campsite. The stars were stunning, and it was wild that you could only hear and kind of see some wildlife. We were walking back and I turned around and I could hear something trailing behind us. I asked her to flash her light, and there was this thing in the distance. We could only see the outline of it, but my gut was telling me to run. We took off running, and I could hear the thing barreling after us. We were close to the campsite, so whatever it was stopped following us the moment we made it onto the site. We assumed it was a monster or a beast. Now I can clearly remember the shape of the thing. It was a person. That last sentence just like sent me into oblivion. Boo! Okay, let's do one more. And then that's it. We'll read some more stuff in the next episode, but this last one is written in by Lizard Trash 47. I was driving home from Yosemite 4 years ago, and I stopped on the side of the road to go pee. I then heard birds in the distance completely stop chirping. It was about 5 p.m. by the way. I knew that a bear was nearby, so I cut it short and started to walk back to my car, which was like 30 feet away. Just as I turned around to walk back, I heard an insanely loud sound that was like a mix between a scream and an air raid siren. It sounded really close, and I know for a fact that it wasn't a bear or a cougar anymore, and I've never heard something so strange and loud. So I ran as fast as I fucking could back to my truck and started the truck. Right before I drove off, I heard it again, but it was even louder and it sounded even more creepy. I still think about it to this day, and I still don't know what kind of creature it could have been. Don't love that. Don't love that. All in all, just use your brain, people. Like, you know, if you're gonna do things in the woods, just be prepared that you're risking your life and from what I can read in these goddamn stories. And, you know, again, don't do it alone. But yeah, those terrify me for some reason because it's hard. I want to go and explore the national parks at some point, but it's also terrifying. So I feel like I've got to figure out a plan to like make it safe for when I do it so I can still do it. Anyway, that's it for today. Tune in tomorrow for episode 14 of Buzztober under the Bubbly Thoughts podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Cheers to you. Stay spooky and stay buzzed. I'll see you tomorrow.